For 15 long years, the alien priestess Sarai of Luthera lived in darkness. She had once been the brightest voice of her temple, the daughter of sacred light, who could see truth in every shadow. But when the war between humans and her people ended, she was struck by a strange energy that burned away her sight. Some said it was punishment from the gods for showing mercy to an enemy soldier. Others whispered that she had touched something forbidden. Whatever the reason, her world became endless night, and her eyes once bright like silver moons turned pale and empty. Her temple stood high above the crystal plains of Vaelthar, where towers floated like glass mountains, and the winds sang through silver spires. Every day she moved through its halls by sound alone, guided by soft steps and the memory of her old vision. She learned to see through the rhythm of others, the heartbeat of a child, the sigh of a wind flute, the breath of a friend kneeling in prayer. Her hearing became sharp, her touch gentle and knowing. She could heal wounds through the warmth of her hands, and when she spoke, her voice was calm like the river after rain. Still, loneliness followed her. The others respected her, but treated her like a relic of shame. She was both holy and cursed, a reminder that even divine ones could fall. She never complained, never raised her voice, but at night, when she was alone in her chamber, she often touched her closed eyes and whispered small prayers to the gods she could no longer trust. She asked them only one thing: to let her see the stars one last time before she died. The years passed in quiet pain, until the day when the sound of heavy metal boots broke the silence of the temple gates. The guards murmured nervously. A human had come to Luther, a rare thing, almost unheard of since the war. His voice echoed through the marble corridors, deep and rough, but not unkind. "Captain Mark Ellen," he said when he met the high priest, "engineer and diplomat from the Earth Union, we come in peace." Sarai listened from afar, hidden behind the curtains of the inner hall. The sound of that voice stirred something in her. It was human, one of those beings her people still half feared, half admired. To her, humans were creatures of passion and pain. Born from worlds of storms and iron, they had once brought ruin, but also strange courage. She stepped forward quietly, guided by the echo of his boots. Mark noticed her presence before she spoke. He turned and saw the blind priestess in her white robes, her long hair silver as frost, her eyes clouded, but calm. "Forgive my intrusion," he said gently. "I didn't know the temple still held its priestess." Sarai smiled faintly. "The temple keeps what the world forgets," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. He could tell she was not just another acolyte. There was wisdom in her tone, and a quiet strength behind her blindness. They talked briefly that day. He asked her about the old ruins under the city, places where strange energy still pulsed from the past war. She told him what she remembered. He noticed that whenever she spoke, her face turned slightly toward the sound of his breath, as if she could read his words through air alone. Later, one of the temple attendants whispered to him about her curse, about how her sight had been taken by the gods after she helped a dying human soldier. Mark felt something twist inside him. He knew the truth of such curses. During the war, he had studied the kind of radiation left by human plasma weapons, how they could scar tissue, alter nerves, and blind even those untouched by direct fire. It wasn't divine. It was science, cruel and misunderstood. That night, Mark walked to the temple garden where Sarai often sat alone. She didn't see him approach, but she felt his presence. "Captain Ellen," she said softly, "you walk like thunder, but your heart beats quietly." He smiled at that. "And you listen like light," he answered. They spoke for hours beneath the singing trees. She told him about her people, their belief that blindness could be a form of divine reflection. He told her about Earth's the sound of rain, the warmth of sun, the color of oceans. She listened in silence, and when he described the sky, she smiled as if she could imagine it. "It sounds like freedom," she said. As days passed, Mark stayed longer in Vaelthar. Officially, he was sent to rebuild old trade channels and repair ancient human technology buried under the alien cities. But in truth, his heart began to focus on something else, the mystery of the priestess's blindness. He watched her move with perfect grace despite her sightless eyes. Her world was shaped by touch and sound, but but she never complained. There was serenity in her sorrow. One evening, while repairing a broken energy conduit beneath the temple, Mark found old readings of the same radiation that caused her blindness. He realized her condition wasn't permanent. It was the result of fused nerve tissue, something his portable lab could possibly reverse. When he told her that, she laughed softly. "You speak as if you can fix the will of gods," she said. "I don't believe in curses," he replied. "Only problems that need solving." She tilted her head, intrigued by the confidence in his voice. "And what if the problem is faith itself? Then maybe faith just needs new eyes," he said. After that night, he began visiting her every evening. He asked permission to scan the air around her chambers, to study the energy patterns that clung to her body. The other priests were uneasy. Human working near their holy priestess was already dangerous. Some whispered that history was repeating itself, that another curse would fall, but Sarai did not stop him. She felt something different about him. His voice carried no hunger for power, only quiet determination. Days turned into weeks. Mark built small instruments out of spare parts from his ship, hiding them under the temple floor. He collected readings, compared wavelengths, and tested healing frequencies. Sarai often sat nearby, listening to the hum of his machines. "They sound like singing stones," she said once, "like the ones in our ancient caves." He nodded. "Maybe the gods you pray to were engineers too?" She smiled faintly. "So, then they must be kind ones."
No.
As time passed, they grew closer. He learned to understand her silences, the small tilt of her head, the way she could sense emotion through a heartbeat. In return, she learned his patterns, how he spoke softer when he cared, how his breathing changed when he was hiding worry. One evening, she reached out her hand and touched his face gently. "You speak of light," she whispered, "but you carry sadness too." He didn't deny it. He told her about his own loss, the comrades who never came back, the guilt that followed him after every mission. She listened without judgment. For the first time in years, he felt at peace. The city around them began to notice. Some of the temple guards murmured that the priestess smiled again, that her voice had warmth it had lost long ago. Others called it danger. "She is letting the curse grow," one elder warned. "The human is stirring forbidden hope." One afternoon, when the council summoned Mark for questioning, Sarai stood near the door, listening to the echo of their anger. "Humans bring chaos," the elder shouted. "They break the sacred order." Mark did not bow. "Your sacred order blinded an innocent woman," he said. "If that's peace, maybe you need a little chaos." The council dismissed him from the temple grounds, packed his tools, and left quietly, not wanting to bring her more trouble. That night, Sarai sat alone in her chamber, her hands trembling. The temple felt emptier without his voice. For the first time in 15 years, she cried not from pain, but from something she couldn't name. The next morning, she walked out of her quarters and followed the faint sound of humming energy. She found him outside the city walls, working beneath a silver bridge. "Shouldn't be here," he said. "And yet you are," she replied softly. "You once said you don't believe in curses. Then neither do I." He looked at her and saw the faint glow of morning light touch her pale eyes. For a brief second, he wondered what color they would be if she could see again. "Then let's prove it," he said. "Let's bring back your light." He guided her to sit before his machine, a delicate frame of crystals, light, and human technology. As he placed a small lens device near her temple, he whispered, "This may hurt for a moment." She smiled. "I have lived with pain for 15 years. What's one more moment?" The machine hummed softly, releasing gentle waves that shimmered through the air. She felt warmth spreading behind her eyes, like sunlight breaking through fog. For a heartbeat, she saw a flicker, a shadow, a color, a spark. It vanished quickly, but she gasped and reached for his hand. "Mark, I saw something." He froze, stunned. It worked. The light faded, but her heart raced with new hope. She turned her blind eyes toward his voice and whispered, trembling, "If I saw even once, then maybe I can see again." He looked at her, and for the first time in years he felt his own heart lift. "Then we'll make sure you do," he said quietly, as the sun rose over Vailthur. The cursed priestess and the human engineer stood together beneath its glowed beings from different worlds, united by one small spark of light, And for the first time in 15 years, Sarai didn't feel blind. She felt alive. After that first glimpse of light, Sarai's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. She had felt the warmth of hope before, in small moments, but this was different. It was real, tangible, like sunlight warming her skin after a long frozen winter. Mark Ellen, the human who had brought it, continued to work tirelessly by her side. Each day he refined the device, adjusting frequencies, testing energies, and speaking softly to her while he worked. She listened, feeling the vibrations of his presence, tracing his hands as they moved over the machinery, imagining the colors she could not yet see. The temple guards in attendance whispered constantly. Some called it dangerous, others miraculous. Sarai paid little attention. The council, however, had heard of Mark's presence and his attempts to interfere with the sacred curse. Rumors spread like fire in the crystal halls. He is breaking the will of the gods, one priest said. The priestess is defying sacred law. Sarai, for the first time in her life, did not hide. She raised her head and spoke boldly. If mercy is forbidden, then let me break that law. If hope is forbidden, then I will create it. Mark admired her courage. She had lived 15 years without sight, yet she faced danger now, with an unshakable calm. She touched his shoulder gently, and he felt the warmth of her hand. I trust you, she whispered, even if the council does not. He nodded. Then we'll do it together. Nothing else matters. The first challenge was understanding the curse itself. While it had been called divine, Mark suspected it was the result of lingering radiation from the old war. Alien energy fields, human weapons, and biotissue had fused in a way that disabled her optic nerves. No one before him had thought to repair it, because the problem seemed spiritual, not scientific. But Mark had a human-esque stubbornness. He spent hours analyzing the temple's old records, scanning the energy residues, and comparing them to his own instruments. Sarai sat beside him, her fingers brushing against the edge of the devices, feeling their vibration and whispering encouragement. They are old energies, she said, but they are not gods. Not in the way humans or Lutherans think. Mark looked at her, surprised. You understand that? I have felt it in my own eyes for 15 years, she replied. The gods do not take lightly, but they do not bind what technology can touch. That is something humans might understand better than my people. While they worked, they began to share more of themselves. Sarai told him about her childhood in the temple, about learning the sacred songs that could calm storms, about the first time she had seen Earth's sky through the reports of ancient explorers. Mark told her of Earth as well blue oceans, green forests, and cities alive with movement and color. He explained human traditions, their failures, their bravery, and their endless curiosity. Sarai listened, sometimes laughing softly at his descriptions, sometimes falling silent, imagining the sights she had never seen. Despite their progress, danger loomed. Members of the High Council grew suspicious of Mark's activities. They feared that a human meddling in sacred matters could spark unrest, even war. One evening, a council emissary arrived at the temple, demanding an explanation. You are tampering with the priestess, the emissary said sharply. You are breaking the rules that have guided Luthera for generations. Mark did not flinch. I am helping her, he said. She has lived in darkness for too long. This is not defiance, it is restoration. The emissary shook his head. Restoration. Or rebellion. You risk everything, human. Sarai stepped forward, placing her hand lightly on Mark's arm. I am not blind to the law, but I am blind to fear. If he were not here, I would still be lost in darkness. This is not rebellion. It is mercy. It is hope. And if that is forbidden, then I will bear the blame. The emissary hesitated, unsure how to respond. Sarai's words carried power, even without sight. Her voice echoed through the marble hall, steady and resolute. Finally, the emissary left, warning that the council would watch them closely. With the immediate threat delayed, Mark resumed his work. He built a small, portable lab in the temple's lower chambers. Sarai learned to navigate it with precision, guided by memory and sound. Together, they ran tests, refined frequencies, and adjusted the energy waves that would one day restore her sight. Sarai was patient, enduring discomfort and fatigue with grace. Mark was careful, precise, but occasionally frustrated when progress slowed. In those moments, she would reach for his hand and speak softly, calming his tension. One night after a long day of experiments, they sat together in the temple garden. The twin moons of Vaelthur hung low in the sky, their light soft and gentle. Sarai listened to the hum of the city below and the vibration of the wind through the crystal spires. Mark spoke quietly about Earth again, describing colors she could not yet see. Blue is calm like water, he said. Red is fire and heat. Green is soft, like moss after rain. Sarai smiled faintly. I can feel them, she said. Not with sight, but in the way you speak. It is enough for now. Mark turned to her. One day it will be more than that. You will see, I promise. She reached for his hand. And if the gods are watching, they will see you alive, he said simply. Weeks passed. The device grew more sophisticated. Mark learned the patterns of her energy, adjusting the frequencies to align perfectly with her neural pathways. He discovered that the radiation was not permanent. It had created a barrier that only precise harmonic resonance could dissolve. Each test brought her closer to sight. Each evening she felt subtle changes, shadows, colors that shimmered in her mind, shapes that danced behind her eyelids. She could sense the difference between morning and evening, day and night, and her heart swelled with a cautious joy. But their work was not unnoticed. The council had sent spies into the temple, and rumors reached the citizens of Vaelthur. Some were curious, hoping for a miracle. Others were afraid, whispering that humans were dangerous and that the priestess was in danger of another curse. One day, a young acolyte approached Sarai. They say the human is changing you, he said nervously. Be careful. The council is watching. Sarai smiled at him, kind and gentle. The council has watched for centuries, she said. I have survived. We are careful, but we are not afraid. Mark and Sarai grew closer as the days passed. She learned to trust him fully, not just with her body or her safety, but with her thoughts and her heart. He, in turn, became deeply protective of her, inspired by her courage and her wisdom. They spoke often of the future, imagining a world where humans and Lutherans could work together, where war was a distant memory, and where mercy was stronger than fear. Then came the breakthrough. One afternoon, while running a delicate calibration, Mark noticed a sudden spike in energy. He adjusted the harmonics and instructed Sarai to focus on the vibrations in her mind. A tiny flicker of light appeared behind her eyes, brief but unmistakable. She gasped and clutched his hand. I saw it, she whispered. Mark's eyes widened in disbelief and joy. You did? Tell me. I saw. A shape moving. It was small, like the wind moving leaves, she said. And then it disappeared. It was more than a flicker. It was hope made real. For the first time in 15 years, Sarai believed that she could see again. They repeated the experiment many times, refining the process, and each day the glimpses grew longer and clearer. She began to sense colors in her mind, the red of the crystal spires, the blue of the distant sky, the green of the moss and vines in the gardens. It was not complete vision, but it was a beginning. However, their success brought new danger. The council discovered the progress and convened an emergency meeting. They demanded that Mark leave immediately, claiming he was interfering with sacred order. Sarai, for the first time, felt anger not at the humans, not at the technology, but at the injustice of it. She confronted the council publicly, her voice strong and unwavering. I have lived in darkness for 15 years, she said. I have suffered quietly, but I am not blind to mercy. If you call hope a crime, then I accept the punishment. But I will not abandon it. He has not harmed me. He has healed me. And if that is forbidden, then let me bear the blame. The council was silent. Her courage, her clarity, her unwavering resolve stunned them. Some whispered among themselves. Some nodded quietly, understanding that the priestess had a right to choose her own path. But the majority still demanded Mark's removal. He faced a choice: obey their orders and abandon the work, or defy the council and risk exile. He did not hesitate. I will not leave her, he said. Not now, not ever. Sarai reached out and touched his cheek. Then we will continue, she said softly. Together. And so they did. The work continued in secret in the lower chambers of the temple. Each night, the hum of the machines filled the air, a gentle symphony of light and sound. Sarai learned to interpret the vibrations, feeling shapes, colors, and shadows in ways she had never imagined. Mark refined the harmonics, adjusting the energy until the barriers that had held her sight captive began to dissolve. Finally, after months of careful work, the day came when she could see fully for the first time. The device hummed steadily, and Mark instructed her to open her eyes. Slowly, cautiously, she lifted her eyelids. Light flooded her mind. The crystal towers, the gardens, the twin moons The day Sarai opened her eyes fully, the temple seemed brighter than ever, yet danger lingered closer than the twin moons above. The council had not forgotten. Whispers of defiance echoed through the crystal halls. The human, Mark Ellen, had crossed boundaries no outsider should, and the priestess had embraced him. Together they had defied sacred law. For some, this was courage. For others, it was heresy. The High Council convened urgently. Elder Therion, the oldest and strictest, spoke first. The priestess has violated the sacred code. She has welcomed a human into the temple, allowing forbidden energy to touch her eyes. This cannot be tolerated. Sarai stood before them, her newly restored eyes unwavering, meeting each gaze with calm resolve. I have lived in darkness for 15 years, she said softly but firmly. I have endured pain, fear, and silence. I have suffered without complaint. But mercy and hope are not crimes. Mark did not harm me. He restored what was lost, and in doing so, he honored life. Some of the council murmured in surprise. Others shook their heads in anger. Elder Therion's eyes narrowed. You claim hope, yet you invite chaos. The law is clear. You will be exiled to Rashel, and the human shall be removed from Luthera forever. Mark stepped forward, his expression steady, though his body betrayed exhaustion from months of work. I will not leave, he said quietly. She does not need exile. She has been free of blindness for the first time in 15 years. I will not abandon her. If the law demands punishment, let it fall on me, not her. A tense silence filled the hall. Sarai's heart swelled at his words. For the first time, she realized that humans were not only capable of bravery, but of selfless loyalty. Her hands brushed his arm in gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Elder Therion's face darkened. Enough. You will both be sent to Rachel at dawn. You will learn humility and obedience, or you will never return to Luthera. The priestess and the human exchanged a glance. Rachel was a harsh desert world where the light of the twin moons barely reached. A place designed to punish and erase identity. But Sarai had lived in darkness for years and knew the desert could not frighten her. Mark's hands were steady as they held hers, and together they prepared for what they knew would be a journey of survival. That night, under the soft hum of the crystal towers, they planned. They would not go quietly. With Mark's knowledge of human technology and Sarai's deep understanding of the temple, they devised a careful escape. Hidden passages, ancient energy conduits, and a transport beacon Mark had smuggled into the temple became their path to freedom. Sarai memorized each turn, each echo, as Mark explained the timing of the patrols. Are you certain? She asked, her fingers brushing the device. Yes, he said. We have waited too long to lose freedom again. At the first sign of dawn, when the guards shifted and the council convened for final instructions, Sarai and Mark moved. They slipped through shadowed corridors and narrow vents, avoiding sensors and patrols. The air was tense with quiet fear, but the thrill of escape lent them courage. Sarai's heart raced with excitement and relief. She could see fully now, yet her vision was sharpened not only by her eyes, but by gore. Awareness of every vibration in the temple walls, they reached the lower chamber where Mark had hidden the transport beacon. The small device hummed softly, ready to carry them beyond the temple and into the unknown. Sarai placed her hand on the control panel, feeling its subtle warmth, and took a deep breath. "We leave together," she said. "Yes," he agreed. Together. Transport activated, a pulse of light and energy enveloping them. The chamber vanished, replaced by a world untouched by war or judgment. They landed on a planet of soft hills, green forests, and clear streams. The air was rich with life, warm and fragrant. For Sarai, the first full sight of this new world was overwhelming. Colors she had only imagined exploded around her, blue skies stretching endlessly. Sunlight dancing on leaves, golden plains reaching the horizon. Her eyes filled with tears, joy spilling through her after 15 years of darkness. Mark looked around as well, marveling at the untouched beauty. "Welcome," he said softly. "This is our beginning." They explored the land together, learning its patterns, its rhythms, and its safety. The planet was uninhabited by other intelligent species, yet life thrived in every corner. Sarai walked along streams, touching water that shimmered with the reflection of the twin suns, marveling at flowers and colors she had only heard described, and listening to birds singing songs she could now see accompanying. She laughed, a clear sound that echoed through the hills, filling Mark with happiness. "I cannot believe I lived 15 years without this," she whispered. "It is more beautiful than I imagined," Mark smiled. "And now you can protect it. Now we can create a home together." They built a small settlement, blending human engineering with Lutheran design. Crystalline structures rose from the ground like natural growths, interwoven with wood and metal. They created gardens, water systems, and energy devices powered by the planet's natural fields. Each structure bore a mark of cooperation, human ingenuity and Lutheran grace intertwined. Over time, Sarai taught Mark the sacred songs she had learned in the temple. She guided him in harmonics and vibrations, helping him understand the natural energies of the planet. He, in turn, taught her to manipulate human tools and devices. Together, they were stronger than either could have imagined alone, but it was not only work that defined them. They shared moments of quiet intimacy, speaking of dreams, fears, and memories. Sarai described her years of blindness, the silent hours filled with longing. Mark spoke of human wars and losses, of comrades fallen and victories claimed. They laughed and cried together, their bond deepening each day. Word of their settlement eventually spread, as explorers and traders discovered the untouched world. Some came to see the alien priestess who had once been cursed, and the human who had helped her see again. They told stories of her courage, his determination, and their mutual respect. The tales inspired many across galaxies, proving that hope and mercy could bridge even the deepest divides between species. Years passed, and the world they had built flourished. The crystal towers reflected sunlight and moonlight alike, and gardens bloomed with colors no one had imagined. They named the planet Alaris, a symbol of rebirth and new beginnings. On a high hill overlooking the settlement, they built a monument to crystal sculpture of two hands joined, human and Lutheran, reaching toward the sky. At its base, Sarai carved words with her restored sight. "He gave me back my sight. She gave me back my faith." Even as time went on, they never forgot the lessons of the past. They honored both their worlds, human and Lutheran, while creating a new future. Together, they trained new settlers in harmony, compassion, and resilience. They showed that courage, patience, and determination could overcome even the longest years of darkness. One evening, as the twin suns set, painting the sky in gold and red, Sarai stood beside Mark on the highest hill. She looked at the settlement below, at the life they had nurtured, and then at the distant horizon. "We are free," she said softly, "and yet we are not alone." Mark took her hand. "No, not alone. Not ever." They watched as the light spread across the world, illuminating forests, rivers, and crystal spires. The air was filled with the songs of birds, the whisper of the wind, and the laughter of those who had come to call this world home. Sarai breathed deeply, savoring the colors, the warmth, the hope she had once thought lost forever. For 15 years, she had lived in darkness, guided only by sound, touch, and memory. Now she could see, feel, and touch the world in ways she had never imagined, and by her side was the human who had never faltered, who had never given up, who had restored not just her sight but her belief in life and the possibility of miracles together. They faced every challenge, explored every unknown, and created a home that was a beacon of hope for generations to come. The cursed priestess was no longer blind. The human had not only healed her eyes, but had awakened her spirit. Their story became a legend, a tale told across planets, a story of courage, loyalty, hope, and the power of one human to change the life of an alien, and one alien to change the life of a human in every evening. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the crystal spires caught the last rays of light, Sarai and Mark stood hand in hand, watching their world glow, knowing that together they had overcome darkness, defied fear, and found a future brighter than any star. The monument on the hill shimmered softly in the twilight, a reminder to all who came after them that hope was stronger than curses, that mercy was stronger than fear, and that life, no matter how long shrouded in darkness, could be returned to light with patience, courage, and unwavering faith. And so, on the world of Eliris, the priestess and the human lived fully, loved fully, and became a symbol of unity, resilience, and the enduring power of hope.